Emma stepped onto the tarmac of the sprawling Air Force Base in Oklahoma, the morning sun glinting off the steel wings of countless aircraft. At just 19, she was the youngest mechanic assigned to the A-10 Warthog squadron, and every step she took carried the faint echo of anxious anticipation. The scent of fuel, hot metal, and oil was familiar, oddly comforting, and yet today it mingled with the nervous energy that buzzed through her veins. She had grown up in a family where the hum of engines was a lullaby, but this was different. This was real. Lives depended on machines she would now touch. Her uniform was crisp, her boots polished, but her hands betrayed her true identity, streaked with grease and tiny scars from years of tinkering. Emma had been different since she could first lift a wrench. While other kids played video games or chased the neighborhood dogs, she had disassembled her father's old dirt bike, memorizing every wire and gear. She had a mind built for mechanics, yet beneath her practical expertise lay a secret that no one could guess. Hidden in the lining of her jacket was a small notebook, its pages filled with invisible ink. Schematics, flight formulas, tactical notes, all painstakingly recorded from the lessons her grandfather, a retired Air Force intelligence officer, had given her. It was a habit, a ritual, a bridge between her childhood obsession and the world she now entered. The squadron's hangar loomed ahead, a cavernous space buzzing with activity. Senior mechanics leaned over open panels, trading jokes about faulty hydraulics and stubborn sensors. Emma's heart raced as she stepped in, acutely aware of how small she felt among these veterans. She kept her eyes forward, tried to appear confident, and focused on her breathing. Each step echoed across the concrete floor, mingling with the rhythmic drone of engines starting up and the occasional metallic clang of a wrench. She knew that today she wasn't just a rookie. Today she had to prove that she belonged. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "You must be the new kid," said Sergeant Miller, a broad-shouldered mechanic with a perpetual smudge of grease across his forehead. He squinted at her, as if assessing whether she would crack under pressure. "Don't let the warthogs chew you up." Emma offered a polite nod. "I won't," she said softly, but inside her mind was already running through checklists and procedures. She had spent years studying aircraft maintenance manuals, memorizing engine schematics, and learning the subtleties that even seasoned mechanics sometimes overlooked. As she moved toward her first assignment, a particularly stubborn A-10 Warthog parked under the bright lights of the hangar, she could feel the gaze of Colonel Davis. The man was legendary on the base, not just for his rank, but for the uncanny ability to detect errors, misjudgments, and inconsistencies from yards away. Most rookies quivered under his scrutiny. Emma, however, felt a flicker of something unfamiliar, curiosity rather than fear. The colonel watched her with the kind of attention that could make a person freeze mid-wrench swing. Yet she reminded herself that her work spoke louder than intimidation. The Warthog's fuselage gleamed with precision engineering, but Emma's trained eye saw every imperfection, every potential weakness in its systems. She crouched beside the landing gear, her hands moving with delicate authority as she inspected hydraulic lines, checked fluid levels, and tightened bolts. Around her, the older mechanics whispered doubts. "That girl thinks she can handle the Warthog. She won't last a week." Emma ignored them, letting her concentration drown out the background noise. She worked as if she were alone in the hangar, her fingers tracing circuits and valves with the meticulousness of a pianist, performing a complex symphony. Underneath her workstation, her secret notebook rested against a support beam. The invisible ink shimmered faintly under the harsh fluorescent lights, revealing formulas and diagrams only she could interpret. She had memorized every page, yet the physical presence of the notebook offered a kind of comfort. It was a tangible connection to her grandfather, to the countless hours she had spent decoding hidden lessons about aircraft performance, tactical enhancements, and operational strategy. It was a secret she carried not for fame, but for mastery, an edge in a world that demanded precision. Time passed, marked only by the rhythmic clank of tools and the occasional hum of a nearby engine. Emma wiped sweat from her brow and straightened, stepping back to observe her work. The Warthog looked immaculate. Every panel secured, every sensor calibrated, every system tested. She allowed herself a brief smile, a small acknowledgement of her skill. But then she noticed Colonel Davis approaching, his gaze unwavering, his posture rigid. He stopped a few feet away, arms crossed, studying her with a focus that made her heart skip a beat. Emma remained calm, continuing to tighten a stubborn panel. She felt his presence like heat radiating across the hangar, yet she refused to let it distract her. Every movement she made was deliberate, precise, and deliberate again. The colonel's sharp eyes caught something, a hint of shimmer from her notebook under the light. He paused, freezing mid-step, an unusual expression crossing his otherwise stern face. He had noticed. Something about this young mechanic unsettled him. A subtle recognition that she was not merely fixing machines, but perhaps carrying knowledge far beyond her apparent age and experience. A bead of sweat trickled down Emma's temple, but she remained composed, finishing her inspection with flawless efficiency. She stepped back and gave the Warthog a final, approving nod. Around her, the hangar remained busy, but for a moment it felt as though time had slowed. Colonel Davis continued to watch, frozen in a rare display of uncertainty. He had encountered many rookies, but none like her. Emma, oblivious to the weight of his gaze, packed up her tools, tucked her notebook safely into her jacket, and prepared to move on to the next task. As she walked toward the exit of the hangar, a sense of quiet triumph washed over her. She had survived the first test, not just the mechanics, not just the scrutiny of senior personnel, but the subtle, invisible measure of skill that even the colonel could not ignore. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered if he had glimpsed her secret, but she pushed the thought aside. Today, she had proved that she belonged. But deep down, Emma knew this was only the beginning of a journey that could change everything. Her career, her reputation, and perhaps the very course of the squadron she had just entered. Emma had barely finished her first inspection when a commotion near the hangar's far end caught her attention. A second A-10 Warthog, notorious among the squadron for its finicky engine and outdated avionics, was scheduled for urgent maintenance. Rumor had it no mechanic had fully tamed it in months. Emma, despite her rookie status, volunteered quietly. She didn't speak to prove herself. Her work would do that. Sergeant Miller raised an eyebrow but shrugged, muttering under his breath about the girl who thinks she's magic. Emma merely nodded, grabbing her toolkit, the weight of responsibility already settling into her shoulders. The hangar seemed to shrink as she approached the stubborn aircraft. Panels hung open, wires looped like tangled threads, and sensors blinked intermittently, signaling system errors. Mechanics crowded nearby, exchanging glances and low murmurs. "This one's a nightmare," someone said. Emma studied the Warthog, mentally mapping each component, each circuit, each sensor anomaly. She crouched by the landing gear, rolling up her sleeves, and began working with surgical precision. Every adjustment was deliberate, her hands moving like a seasoned surgeon rather than a 19-year-old rookie. While she worked, her notebook remained hidden beneath the workbench, invisible ink glinting faintly under the fluorescent lights. She didn't need to reference it. She had memorized every schematic, every formula, but its presence gave her comfort. It was a silent testament to her preparation, the countless nights spent decoding her grandfather's lessons, the intricate designs hidden in a language only she fully understood. She glanced at it once, almost instinctively, ensuring it hadn't shifted. That small act, though unseen by anyone else, held a strange sense of reassurance. Colonel Davis, ever the observer, moved closer. Emma could sense rather than see his gaze, a tension radiating through the air. He was legendary for spotting errors from yards away, but now his expression had shifted. There was curiosity mixed with disbelief, a flicker of something else, something that unsettled even him. He froze momentarily as he caught a faint shimmer from the notebook, something invisible to anyone else. Emma continued her work, oblivious to the fact that she had just captured the attention of the most exacting officer on the base. The Warthog presented every challenge the rumors had promised. Its hydraulics were stubborn, the avionics system sporadically unresponsive, and the targeting sensors misaligned. Other mechanics would have panicked or called for assistance. Emma, however, thrived in the chaos. She methodically traced each circuit, calibrated sensors, and fine-tuned hydraulic pressures. Every adjustment she made reflected her deep understanding of the aircraft, not merely its components but the subtle interplay between systems that determined combat effectiveness. Her fingers danced over wires and connectors, precise, confident, and tireless. The colonel watched silently, arms crossed, unable to look away. There was something unnerving about Emma's competence. He had trained mechanics for decades, yet he had never encountered someone so young with an understanding so advanced, so instinctive. When she paused briefly to adjust a sensor alignment, he noticed the faint shimmer on the workbench again, the invisible ink. His mind raced. Could someone this young have independently developed such intricate knowledge? Or was there someone behind her, guiding her in ways that might bend the rules of protocol? Emma's attention never wavered. She tightened a bolt on the landing gear, checked fluid pressures, and recalibrated the targeting system. The other mechanics, initially skeptical, gradually fell silent, watching in disbelief. Whispers circulated quietly. How is she doing this? She's barely 19. No one ever fixed that Warthog like this before. Emma heard none of it. She was immersed in the symphony of machinery, the hum of hydraulic lines, the precise clicks of sensors aligning. To her, it was all instinct, honed from years of secret study and hands-on practice. Minutes turned into an hour, the hangar filled with the steady rhythm of progress. Emma wiped sweat from her brow, pausing to observe the Warthog as a whole. Every panel secured, every sensor calibrated, every system functional and optimized. She stepped back, taking a deep breath, allowing herself a rare moment of satisfaction. Then she noticed the colonel still standing nearby, frozen, an unreadable expression on his face. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of scrutiny, not the casual doubt of peers, but the intense, penetrating focus of someone who could make or break her career with a single word. Colonel Davis finally spoke, his voice steady but carrying an unmistakable edge. "Explain the adjustments you made," he said, pointing to the Warthog's control panel. Emma, unflustered, began detailing each correction, each calibration, and each subtle optimization. She spoke not only of mechanics but of tactical implications, how slight hydraulic tweaks improved maneuverability, how sensor realignment enhanced targeting accuracy, how minor avionics adjustments could save seconds in combat situations. The colonel's eyes widened. This was beyond standard maintenance. This was advanced operational understanding, knowledge that few pilots even possessed. As she spoke, Davis's gaze returned to the notebook. He caught a glimpse of its shimmer again and his body tensed. Something about the invisible ink stirred a mix of awe and unease. Here was a 19-year-old with the skills of a seasoned engineer and the foresight of a tactician. His mind raced with possibilities and dangers. Who had trained her? How had she acquired such knowledge? Was she merely a prodigy, or was this part of a larger, unknown plan? Emma finished her explanation, confident, calm, unaware that she had just elevated herself from rookie mechanic to a figure of fascination and concern. The Warthog, now fully operational, hummed with newfound efficiency. Emma ran a final diagnostic, confirming that all systems were performing optimally. Around her, the squadron's mechanics remained silent, jaws slightly agape. For the first time, the hangar felt charged, as though something monumental had shifted. Colonel Davis finally spoke, this time with a mixture of respect and caution. "You didn't just fix the aircraft," he said quietly. "You improved it." Emma nodded modestly, aware of the praise but focused on the task completed. The notebook remained hidden, its secret safe for now. Emma stepped back, wiped her hands, and allowed herself a small smile. Today had been more than maintenance. It had been a test, one she hadn't even known was happening. She had navigated the machinery, the scrutiny, and the subtle pressures of doubt, emerging unscathed and perhaps extraordinary. Yet somewhere in the corner of her mind, she sensed the colonel's interest, and the knowledge that her secret ink, her hidden studies, had not gone unnoticed. The journey she had begun was only just beginning, and already it was far more complex than she could have imagined. Colonel Davis lingered in the hangar long after Emma had finished her work, his gaze still fixed on the young mechanic. Something about her had unsettled him in a way no rookie had ever managed. Most new recruits were either nervous or brash, but Emma was different. Calm, precise, unassuming, and yet somehow entirely unmissable. The way she had not only repaired, but optimized the A-10 Warthog systems went far beyond standard maintenance. His military instincts told him there was more here than met the eye, and he could not ignore it. As he stepped closer, Davis's sharp eyes caught a faint shimmer of invisible ink beneath the workbench. His mind raced. He had seen classified schematics before. He had trained intelligence officers, but nothing like this on someone so young. Could a 19-year-old have acquired such knowledge independently, or had someone trained her in secret? The possibilities were both extraordinary and alarming. He noted the angles, the faint glow, and then froze. For the first time in his career, a recruit's secret had the potential to challenge everything he thought he knew. Emma, oblivious to the colonel's scrutiny, continued tidying her tools. She hummed softly, a nervous but content melody she had picked up from years of late-night tinkering in her grandfather's garage. She organized her wrenches, double-checked hydraulic pressures, and wiped down the fuselage with care, her movements methodical. She knew her work would speak for itself, yet the presence of the colonel made the familiar task feel heavier, charged with unspoken tension. Every motion was measured, almost as if she could sense that someone was watching not just her, but the knowledge she carried hidden in plain sight. "Explain this to me," Colonel Davis said suddenly, his voice cutting through the hum of the hangar. His eyes were fixed on the Warthog's control panel, but Emma instinctively knew the question was more than about mechanics. She straightened, masking the brief flicker of surprise. "The hydraulic system needed Miner to optimize response times," she said calmly. "I adjusted the pressure valves to compensate for sensor lag. The avionics were misaligned, so I recalibrated the targeting computer to increase accuracy under high-speed maneuvers. Finally, I ran a full diagnostic on the engine, correcting minor inefficiencies that could reduce operational readiness." Davis's brow furrowed. Most rookies could not have articulated such a detailed explanation, let alone executed it flawlessly. His instincts screamed that she was extraordinary, but that was only half the story. Something in her method, her vocabulary, even the way she referred to minor tactical implications, suggested training beyond normal maintenance protocols. He leaned in slightly, observing her demeanor, searching for signs of deceit or exaggeration. He found none. Her calm, precise articulation only confirmed what he feared. Emma's expertise was real, deep, and potentially dangerous if not properly understood. The colonel's mind raced. Intelligence briefings flashed through his memory, advanced schematics, tactical optimizations, covert experimental designs, all knowledge that a teenager should not possess. And yet here she was, demonstrating it quietly, casually, as if it were ordinary. He had seen genius before, but Emma's combination of practical skill and theoretical mastery was unprecedented. His thoughts kept returning to the shimmer of invisible ink beneath the workbench. That notebook was not merely a journal. It was a repository of classified knowledge disguised as childhood curiosity. Emma, sensing the intensity of the gaze on her, did not flinch. Years of careful study had taught her discipline. She continued to organize her tools, occasionally glancing at the aircraft as if nothing were amiss. She had prepared for scrutiny, for doubt, for the harsh evaluation of senior officers, but she had not anticipated that the colonel would see her so quickly, so thoroughly. Still, her secret felt safe, tucked beneath her jacket, invisible to anyone who did not know how to look. Davis finally asked another question, softer this time, testing her mental grasp rather than her physical skill. "Tell me why you chose that particular adjustment on the sensor array," he said. Emma's eyes met his calmly. "The targeting sensors respond nonlinearly under extreme speed and rapid directional changes," she explained. "Realigning the array compensates for latency, improving lock-on time by a margin that could be critical in close combat. Even minor misalignments can cause weapon system delays, reducing operational effectiveness. I followed these adjustments to maintain both mechanical integrity and tactical performance. The colonel's eyes widened slightly. She had not only anticipated his questions but had answered them with precision and insight. He felt a shiver of both awe and unease. This was no ordinary prodigy. This was someone whose knowledge and instinct straddled the line between mechanical genius and tactical intelligence. He realized with an unfamiliar pang of apprehension that Emma's potential extended far beyond the hangar, far beyond routine maintenance. She had the capability to influence operations on a level most officers only dreamed of achieving. Yet as impressed as he was, Davis could not ignore the risk. That invisible ink notebook represented a repository of advanced knowledge, and he had no idea of its full scope. He needed to determine the source of her expertise. Was she truly self-taught, or had she been trained in secret for a purpose yet unknown? Every hypothesis seemed simultaneously incredible and plausible. The colonel, frozen in thought, recognized that one misstep could either squander an exceptional talent or create a security breach of unimaginable proportions. Emma, unaware of the scrutiny, finally packed away her tools. She glanced briefly at the notebook under the workbench, a faint sense of comfort passing through her. Years of preparation, study, and secret lessons had brought her here. She had faced skepticism, challenge, and pressure, and had emerged intact. The Warthog, now fully operational, gleamed under the hangar lights, a testament to her skill. She had no idea that the most dangerous and important assessment of her career had only just begun. Colonel Davis exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in his chest ease slightly while simultaneously tightening with new intensity. He had just observed a 19-year-old achieve what seasoned mechanics could not. He had witnessed precision, insight, and theoretical understanding applied flawlessly in practice. And he had glimpsed a secret, hidden knowledge that could reshape his squadron's operations if properly harnessed. He knew one thing with certainty. Emma was no ordinary rookie, and her journey had only just begun. Colonel Davis sat in his office, reviewing maintenance logs while his mind replayed Emma's earlier performance. Her precision, insight, and uncanny grasp of tactical applications had unsettled him. He knew the Warthog had been optimized, but the depth of understanding she displayed suggested training far beyond a 19-year-old mechanic. He decided a formal test was necessary, not just to confirm her skills, but to understand the scope of her knowledge. This would not be a routine repair. It would be a challenge designed to push both her technical expertise and tactical reasoning to the limit. Within an hour, the hangar buzzed with anticipation. The squadron had been informed of a controlled evaluation, a high-pressure test on an A-10 Warthog with deliberately introduced malfunctions. Emma was briefed without knowing the full extent of the challenge. Hydraulic pressure variances, avionics misalignments, sensor failures, and engine inconsistencies had been seeded to simulate a high-stakes mission scenario. The other mechanics, skeptical and curious, whispered among themselves. "She won't finish this in time," one muttered. "She might know the basics, but this is a nightmare," another added. Emma, calm as ever, simply nodded, her mind already mapping the problem. She crouched beside the aircraft, toolkit in hand, scanning each system with meticulous precision. Her fingers moved like clockwork, checking hydraulic pressures, aligning sensors, and recalibrating avionics. Every adjustment reflected a combination of mechanical intuition and tactical foresight. She considered how slight misalignments could affect weapon targeting, reaction time, and operational safety. Each correction was deliberate, informed by both instinct and the knowledge she had painstakingly absorbed from her grandfather's lessons. Around her, the hangar seemed to fade away, leaving only her, the aircraft, and the challenge at hand. Colonel Davis observed silently from a distance, arms crossed, his eyes sharp and calculating. This was no ordinary evaluation. He had set the scenario to challenge her comprehension, her decision-making under pressure, and her ability to think beyond routine procedures. What he saw was astonishing. Emma did not merely repair the aircraft, she improved it. Minor adjustments to the hydraulic system increased responsiveness, of the avionics minimized error, and sensor tweaks enhanced targeting accuracy. Every move suggested not only understanding but foresight, a capacity to anticipate problems before they arose. One of the engineers approached, whispering to the colonel, "She's faster than anyone I've seen handle these malfunctions. It's like she knows the aircraft inside and out." Davis nodded slowly, still focused, but unease crept through him. He knew she was exceptional, but the invisible ink notebook beneath her jacket suggested there was far more than natural talent involved. Someone had trained her, or she had discovered knowledge that should have been restricted. Either way, the implications were profound. Emma moved seamlessly from one malfunction to the next. A stubborn sensor misalignment refused standard methods, and most mechanics would have paused, waiting for guidance. Not Emma. She adjusted the alignment using an unconventional approach she had memorized from her secret notebook, subtly compensating for mechanical tolerances that most overlooked. The sensor snapped into perfect calibration, the screen blinking green in acknowledgement. Around the hangar, whispers of astonishment spread. "How did she do that?" one mechanic asked. Another shrugged. "No one knows, but it works." Colonel Davis decided it was time to test her tactical knowledge under pressure. He approached the Warthog, his presence commanding attention. "Explain the impact of your adjustments on operational readiness," he said. Emma didn't hesitate. "The hydraulic adjustments reduce response latency during high-G maneuvers, improving maneuverability and pilot control. Sensor increases targeting accuracy, especially in low-visibility conditions. Engine optimizations improve fuel efficiency and reliability, reducing the risk of in-flight failures during extended sorties. Together, these changes enhance combat readiness and survivability while maintaining structural integrity." Her voice was calm, measured, yet precise. Every word reflected knowledge far beyond her years. The colonel's eyes narrowed, suspicion now mingling with awe. He had encountered many prodigies, but rarely someone capable of combining hands-on expertise with tactical reasoning. Emma's comprehension suggested a depth of study that could not be acquired casually. The shimmer of invisible ink in her jacket reminded him that there was more, much more, that he did not yet understand. Could a single teenager hold such knowledge independently? Or had she been trained in secret, prepared for purposes yet unknown? The questions burned in his mind as he continued to watch. Minutes turned into nearly an hour as Emma systematically worked through the malfunctioning systems. Each correction was flawless, each calibration precise, each adjustment informed by theoretical and practical understanding. When she finished, she ran a full diagnostic. The aircraft hummed with efficiency, all systems performing optimally. The hangar, once filled with skepticism and doubt, now buzzed with admiration and disbelief. Colonel Davis exhaled slowly, realizing she had not only passed the test, she had exceeded every expectation he had set. Her skill was extraordinary, undeniable, and completely unprecedented. He approached her directly, carefully observing her reaction. "Impressive work," he said, voice steady but controlled. Emma, ever composed, nodded. "Thank you, sir," she replied simply, masking the faint thrill of accomplishment. Davis's mind raced, still processing the implications. She had navigated complex mechanical failures with ease, explained tactical outcomes flawlessly, and anticipated potential problems before they arose. She had done more than repair an aircraft. She had demonstrated the kind of understanding that could influence operations at the highest levels. As she packed up her tools, the colonel's gaze lingered on her jacket, aware of the secret notebook beneath. He knew that what he had witnessed was only part of the story. Emma was no ordinary mechanic. Her abilities hinted at hidden knowledge, years of secret preparation, and a capacity for insight that could change the very way the squadron operated. Davis's mind buzzed with possibilities, both thrilling and concerning. Whoever had trained her, or whatever she had learned, it was clear that she was a force unlike any he had encountered before. By the time the evaluation ended, the hangar had quieted. Emma stepped back from the Warthog, breathing evenly, her expression calm and focused. Around her, mechanics whispered their astonishment, still processing what they had witnessed. Colonel Davis remained silent for a moment, then gave a subtle nod, approval mixed with caution. This rookie mechanic had not only survived the test, she had redefined what it meant to be capable in the Air Force. But one question lingered, gnawing at him. Who had given her the knowledge to do this? And what would it mean for the future? The hangar was unusually quiet after the day's high-pressure evaluation, but Colonel Davis remained behind, his mind a whirlwind of questions. Emma had performed flawlessly under conditions designed to test her limits, yet the faint shimmer of invisible ink he had glimpsed earlier nagged at him. That notebook, tucked secretly beneath her jacket, was no ordinary journal. It contained schematics, tactical formulas, and technical annotations that went far beyond the scope of routine maintenance. Davis felt a rare mix of awe and apprehension. He had discovered a prodigy, but he had no idea of the potential risks hidden within her knowledge. He waited until Emma was called away to another assignment. Carefully, he approached the workbench where he suspected the notebook had been placed, eyes scanning for any telltale shimmer. Sure enough, beneath the bench lay the small leather-bound book, unassuming at first glance but clearly extraordinary. He opened it, holding it under the bright hangar lights and tilting it slightly. The invisible ink began to reveal itself. Intricate schematics of the A-10's hydraulics, engine modifications, and even tactical enhancements for combat maneuvers. Each page was painstakingly organized, the handwriting neat and methodical. Davis's pulse quickened. The depth and precision of the notes were staggering. Some diagrams bordered on experimental, suggesting modifications that had never been officially approved. Engine tweaks that could enhance efficiency without compromising structural integrity, hydraulic adjustments that could improve reaction time during high-G maneuvers, and sensor that could give pilots a tactical edge in combat. Davis realized that this knowledge, if applied correctly, could revolutionize the squadron's operational efficiency. Yet the implications were equally dangerous. If the notebook fell into the wrong hands, it could compromise security or be misused in ways that no one could control. As he flipped through the pages, Davis's mind raced. How had a 19-year-old acquired this level of expertise? Most of these formulas and schematics were classified at higher levels, requiring years of advanced study and clearance. And yet, here was Emma, handling them as if they were routine notes from a school assignment. He wondered about her grandfather, the retired intelligence officer she had mentioned. Had he trained her in secret? Was this part of a larger plan, or simply a remarkable case of self-directed genius? The questions churned in his mind, each one more pressing than the last. Meanwhile, Emma was busy in the hangar, unaware of the colonel's examination. She meticulously checked the next A-10 in line, running diagnostics and performing routine maintenance. Every adjustment was precise, every sensor checked, every panel secured. She had no idea that her secret notebook, the culmination of years of careful study and secret practice, had already captured the full attention of Colonel Davis. Her mind was focused entirely on the task at hand, yet a faint sense of anticipation lingered. Something told her that her unique skills might finally be recognized, though she could not have predicted the attention it had already drawn. Davis studied the notebook carefully, noting patterns in her annotations. She had a remarkable ability to connect mechanical adjustments with tactical outcomes. Each note included detailed reasoning, why a hydraulic tweak could enhance maneuverability, how sensor affected targeting precision, even potential scenarios where minor adjustments could prevent catastrophic failure in combat. The clarity and foresight were unlike anything Davis had ever encountered. This was not just mechanical skill. This was strategic understanding applied at a granular, technical level. The implications were profound. He considered the broader picture. Emma's abilities could provide the squadron with an unprecedented advantage, improving operational readiness, enhancing pilot safety, and even influencing mission planning. Yet he remained cautious. The invisible ink suggested deliberate secrecy. She had gone to great lengths to protect this knowledge, perhaps understanding its value before anyone else could. Davis realized that whatever decision he made next could affect not just her career, but the security and effectiveness of the entire unit. He needed to understand her fully before taking any action. The colonel put the notebook down momentarily, packing the hangar silently. The more he considered Emma, the more extraordinary she seemed. She had handled high-pressure situations with precision, demonstrated knowledge far beyond her training, and protected critical information with subtle cunning. Most officers would have dismissed such talent as luck or exaggeration, but Davis could feel the truth beneath it. Emma was a rare combination of intellect, skill, and discipline. Yet the unknown factor, the source and scope of her knowledge, remained a significant concern. He decided to observe her further, watching her interactions with the other mechanics. Emma treated her colleagues with quiet respect, offering guidance without arrogance, explaining procedures when asked, yet never flaunting her expertise. She was a natural leader in the making, someone whose authority derived not from rank but from competence and trust. Davis's admiration grew, tempered by caution. He knew the value of raw talent, and he also understood the danger of underestimating it. Emma had potential far beyond the hangar walls, and he had to ensure it was properly nurtured. Later, he returned to the notebook, scanning pages he had not yet examined. There were encrypted formulas, tactical notes referencing scenarios that seemed almost operational rather than mechanical. Davis's mind raced, considering possibilities. Was this intended to enhance the squadron's capabilities, or was it a private exercise in skill and legacy from her grandfather? The precision, foresight, and ambition captured within the notebook suggested intentional planning, not mere curiosity. Whoever had created it had anticipated the practical applications of this knowledge and its potential strategic value. As the sun set over the base, Davis finally closed the notebook, his mind set. He had seen enough to know that Emma was exceptional in every sense. She had proven herself under pressure, demonstrated a mastery of mechanics and tactics, and possessed knowledge that could redefine squadron operations. Yet she remained a mystery, her abilities intertwined with secrecy. The colonel knew that the next steps were critical. He would have to confront her, learn the origin of her knowledge, and determine how to integrate her extraordinary talent into the squadron without compromising security. By the end of the day, Emma returned from her final checks, unaware of the scrutiny her notebook had. She packed her tools, exhausted but satisfied. The Warthogs were ready, the systems optimized, and the squadron impressed beyond words. Davis watched her silently from a distance, a mixture of respect, caution, and intrigue swirling within him. He had uncovered a prodigy, a mechanic whose skill and intelligence convention. The question now was how to channel her potential, without underestimating the power of the hidden knowledge she carried. Colonel Davis leaned back in his office chair, eyes fixed on the closed notebook before him. He had spent hours poring over Emma's meticulous notes, each page revealing expertise far beyond what any 19-year-old mechanic should possess. The invisible ink had unveiled schematics, tactical formulas, and engine modifications that bordered on classified experimental work. He knew that leaving this unaddressed could be as dangerous as ignoring it. He needed answers. Emma had proven herself under pressure, but her source of knowledge remained a mystery, one he could no longer afford to leave unsolved. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," Davis called. The door opened to reveal Emma, her expression composed as ever, holding a small set of tools she had returned from the hangar. She paused when she saw the notebook on his desk, the faint shimmer still visible under the fluorescent lights. Davis motioned for her to sit, his tone steady but deliberate. "Emma, we need to talk," he said, "about your knowledge, your skills, and this." He tapped the notebook. Emma's eyes flickered briefly to the desk, but she remained calm. She had anticipated this moment, though she hadn't expected it to come so soon. She sat carefully, hands folded in her lap, and met the colonel's gaze. "I assume you found my notebook," she said softly. Her tone carried neither fear nor arrogance, only quiet acknowledgement. Davis leaned forward, studying her. "I did, and I need to know, where did all of this come from? These schematics, these adjustments, the tactical reasoning." "It's not typical, it's extraordinary." Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "It's from my grandfather," she began. "He was a retired Air Force intelligence officer. When I was young, he taught me how to observe, analyze, and improve aircraft systems. Most of it was hidden, lessons in invisible ink, secret schematics, tactical exercises he thought would teach me discipline and foresight. I spent years decoding them, practicing, and applying what I learned. That notebook is the culmination of all those lessons." Davis listened intently, nodding, the calm conviction in her voice. The explanation was plausible yet extraordinary. A teenager trained in secret, mastering knowledge that even many senior mechanics struggled to comprehend. "You've essentially created a private curriculum," he said slowly, trying to grasp the scope, "for yourself, and applied it to actual aircraft maintenance and tactical optimization." Emma nodded. "Yes, sir. I never intended to show it unless it was needed. I've studied and practiced quietly, and only applied the knowledge when it was appropriate. I wanted to prove my skill, not my heritage." The colonel exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly but his mind still buzzing. "Emma, your work today, it wasn't just impressive. It was exceptional and dangerous in its implications. Your knowledge could enhance operations, but if misapplied, it could compromise safety or security. Why didn't anyone train you officially? Why was this all hidden?" Emma's gaze remained steady. "My grandfather believed I needed discipline and independence. He said the Air Force had rigid protocols, and genius often thrived outside the rules. He wanted me to learn, observe, and understand, not merely follow instructions. That's why it was hidden, both in ink and in lessons." Davis leaned back, trying to measure her sincerity. Everything about her demeanor suggested truth, yet the risks remained significant. He had seen her in action. She had optimized aircraft, recalibrated systems, and demonstrated tactical foresight under pressure. She was no longer just a rookie mechanic. She was a potential asset of rare talent. Yet the question remained, how to integrate her skill without creating security vulnerabilities. One wrong move could undo months of careful protocol. He studied her quietly, realizing that trust would be essential. "I need to understand the full scope," he said finally. "You have skills that could change how we operate, but I also need to know you comprehend responsibility. The Air Force isn't a playground for experiments. Mistakes could cost lives." Emma nodded solemnly. "I understand, sir. Every adjustment I make, every calculation I perform, I consider the operational consequences. I've been taught to respect the systems, the aircraft, and the people who rely on them. That's why I'm careful. And why I keep records hidden until the right moment." Davis leaned forward, studying her intently. "Emma, do you realize what this means? You've just elevated yourself beyond ordinary evaluation. You're not just a mechanic, you're a strategist, an engineer, and potentially an operational innovator. If used correctly, your knowledge could enhance the entire squadron's readiness and performance, but it must be managed carefully." Emma's lips pressed into a thin line. "I understand, sir. I want to contribute, not to draw attention to myself. I just want to help in the ways I've been taught." The colonel's mind raced through possibilities, weighing risk and reward. He saw her potential clearly, recognized the discipline and skill she had honed, and acknowledged the rare combination of mechanical mastery and tactical insight she possessed. He realized that if nurtured, she could become a cornerstone of squadron operations, someone capable of influencing both maintenance and mission strategy at levels few others could. And yet the hidden knowledge, the invisible ink, the secret lessons needed to be respected and monitored. Finally, Davis exhaled, a mixture of relief and resolve settling over him. "Emma," he said, voice firm but respectful, "you have extraordinary talent. You've proven skill, judgment, and discipline beyond your years. We will find a way for you to contribute safely for the benefit of the squadron and the Air Force. But you must understand this trust comes with responsibility. One misstep, one careless disclosure, and it could cost far more than your career." Emma's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "I understand completely, sir. I've learned that every decision, every adjustment, every calculation carries consequences. I won't take this lightly." Davis nodded. He had reached a rare conclusion. Not only was she a prodigy, but she was mature enough to handle the responsibility that came with it. For the first time, he felt confident that Emma's hidden knowledge could become an asset rather than a risk. As she left his office, the colonel watched her silently, notebook closed on the desk. The secrets it contained were vast, but now they had a context, a source, and a steward. Emma was no ordinary mechanic. She was a bridge between disciplined preparation, genius, and operational excellence. And Davis knew one thing with certainty. The Air Force had just discovered a talent whose impact could reshape operations for years to come. The following morning, the hangar hummed with the usual activity, but a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Colonel Davis had made a decision overnight, a rare and significant move. Emma, the 19-year-old rookie who had stunned the squadron with her mastery of the A-10 Warthog and her hidden knowledge, would no longer be confined to routine maintenance tasks. Today, she would be formally recognized and recruited into an elite operational program, one designed to leverage her extraordinary skill set while maintaining strict oversight of her secret expertise. Emma arrived at the hangar early, tools in hand, expecting another day of standard inspections and minor repairs. Instead, Davis approached her with an unusual formality, clipboard in hand, and a posture that radiated authority tempered with respect. "Emma," he said, his voice carrying weight, "I've reviewed your performance and I've reviewed your notebook. What you've demonstrated is unprecedented. Today, we're offering you a formal role in an advanced operations program. You'll continue your mechanical work, but you'll also contribute to system optimization, tactical enhancements, and strategic planning." Emma paused, momentarily stunned. Recognition at this level had been unimaginable. She had hoped her skills would be acknowledged gradually, but this formal recruitment was beyond her expectations. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, sir," she said, her voice steady. "I understand the responsibility and I accept." Davis nodded, his gaze firm but approving. "Good. You'll report directly to me for operational assignments. Your knowledge and discretion are critical. Every adjustment, every suggestion, every tactical insight must be carefully considered. We'll integrate your abilities into the squadron, but we must maintain operational security." Word of her recruitment spread quickly through the hangar. Mechanics exchanged glances of surprise and admiration. Some were skeptical, but most were impressed. Emma's reputation, already bolstered by her flawless handling of the malfunctioning Warthog, had just expanded exponentially. She now carried authority not only through her skill, but also through her role in shaping operational strategy. The young mechanic, once underestimated by her peers, was transforming into a central figure in the squadron's operations. Davis escorted her to a quiet corner of the hangar where a secondary A-10 had been prepared for a controlled trial. "We'll start with practical applications," he explained. "Your adjustments and optimizations will be monitored during live diagnostic simulations. This is both to test your insights in a controlled environment and to ensure alignment with operational protocols." Emma nodded, understanding the importance of precision. She approached the aircraft calmly, reviewing her mental checklist and preparing to apply her expertise in a high-stakes, observational scenario. The simulation began, with sensors, hydraulics, and avionics configured to reflect real-world operational stress. Emma moved systematically, adjusting hydraulic pressures, recalibrating sensors, and fine-tuning engine performance. Her actions were deliberate, precise, and measured. Every movement reflected not only mechanical skill, but tactical foresight. She anticipated potential failures before they occurred, applying solutions that increased reliability and efficiency. The Warthog responded flawlessly, and Davis observed every step with a mixture of pride and cautious fascination. As the trial progressed, Emma noticed small inefficiencies that had been intentionally seeded into the system for testing. She corrected them silently, integrating her grandfather's lessons with real-time observations. The Warthog's performance exceeded expected parameters, demonstrating improved responsiveness, targeting precision, and operational efficiency. Davis took notes, aware that Emma's contributions were transforming routine aircraft maintenance into strategic enhancement. Her work blurred the lines between mechanic, engineer, and operational strategist. The squadron watched in quiet awe. Emma, once the underestimated rookie, had become a figure of authority and inspiration. Her peers began to recognize the depth of her knowledge, the discipline of her practice, and the precision of her execution. She had earned respect not through words but through mastery. Davis understood that this recognition was crucial, not only for operational success but also for morale and cohesion. Emma's abilities, once hidden, now served as a model for excellence and innovation within the squadron. Later, Davis called her aside. "Emma," he said quietly, "your skills will be critical in upcoming missions. We'll be developing new operational protocols, and your insights will shape both maintenance procedures and tactical strategy. Your contributions will be monitored, documented, and integrated at every level. This is not just an acknowledgement of skill. It's a responsibility that will define your career and influence the squadron's performance." Emma listened carefully, absorbing the weight of his words. "I understand, sir," she replied. "I'll apply my knowledge with precision and discretion." The colonel's eyes softened slightly. "Good. One more thing," he said. "Your notebook, it contains invaluable insights. Keep it secure and continue your work carefully. It will serve as a reference, a guide, and a tool for developing procedures that maintain both safety and operational advantage. You've demonstrated skill, judgment, and discipline. Now we'll see how far that combination can take us." Emma nodded, feeling a quiet surge of determination. She had trained in secret for years, and now her efforts had found purpose on a scale she had never imagined. By the end of the day, the hangar had transformed. Emma was no longer just a rookie mechanic. She had become a vital part of the squadron's operational infrastructure. Mechanics approached her with questions and insights, seeking guidance and clarification. Davis observed, satisfied that his decision to integrate her into advanced operations was correct. The young prodigy had not only proven herself, but had begun to shape the culture and performance of the squadron. Her hidden knowledge, once a personal secret, was now a cornerstone of innovation and excellence. As she packed her tools and prepared to leave for the evening, Emma paused and glanced at the Warthogs lined up in the hangar. Each aircraft gleamed with precision, a testament to her skill, discipline, and determination. She had been underestimated, scrutinized, and challenged, and she had emerged not only successful but empowered. The journey that had begun in secret lessons with her grandfather had brought her here, recognized, trusted, and poised to influence the very core of the Air Force operations she loved. The path ahead was uncertain, but Emma knew she was ready. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the tarmac as Emma approached the A-10 Warthog assigned to her for the day's mission. It was no routine exercise. Colonel Davis had prepared a high-stakes operational scenario designed to test her expertise, decision-making, and strategic foresight under pressure. Systems had been subtly modified to simulate real-world malfunctions and tactical challenges, creating a scenario where success required not only technical skill, but instinct, analysis, and quick thinking. Emma's calm demeanor belied the intensity of the challenge she was about to face. The hangar buzzed with activity as other squadron members prepared their aircraft, but Emma's focus was singular. She performed a meticulous pre-flight check, running diagnostics, verifying hydraulic systems, and calibrating sensors. Every action was deliberate, every calculation precise. She knew that success would not come from rushing or improvisation. It would come from the mastery she had honed over years of secret practice, careful study, and hands-on experience. The Warthog hummed beneath her, responsive and ready, a machine she had learned to understand as an extension of her own skill and insight. Colonel Davis observed from the control tower, his eyes sharp and calculating. This was the culmination of Emma's journey, the moment when her hidden knowledge, discipline, and tactical reasoning would be put to the ultimate test. He had designed scenarios with unpredictable sensor failures, simulated hydraulic delays, and complex targeting challenges. Most pilots and mechanics would struggle to manage such complications simultaneously, but Emma was no ordinary operator. Her grandfather's secret lesson had prepared her for exactly this kind of situation. The scenario began. The Warthog systems immediately registered anomalies, a slight delay in hydraulic response, sensor misalignment, and engine inefficiency. Emma's hands moved instinctively, adjusting valve pressures, recalibrating the avionics, and fine-tuning engine output. She anticipated each problem before it fully manifested, mitigating failures with precise corrections. The aircraft responded smoothly, outperforming expected parameters. Around her, the squadron and observing officers murmured in disbelief. What they had thought was a controlled exercise had become a live demonstration of exceptional skill. As the simulated mission progressed, Emma encountered a critical scenario, a system-wide avionics error that threatened targeting accuracy. Pilots relied on precise sensor readings for simulated strikes, and any failure could have jeopardized the entire operation. Emma paused for a fraction of a second, analyzing the problem, then executed a solution she had devised in her notebook months earlier. Adjusting redundant circuits, she rerouted sensor inputs, effectively bypassing the failure and restoring full operational capacity. The Warthog's targeting systems blinked green, signaling success. Davis's eyes widened. He had anticipated difficulty, but she had exceeded expectations once again. The simulation escalated. Hydraulic pressures fluctuated under high-G maneuvers, and engine output varied unpredictably. Emma responded instantly, applying calibrated adjustments, predicting system responses before they occurred. Her fingers moved with the confidence of experience, yet each movement reflected deep analysis and tactical reasoning. The aircraft, guided by her skill, executed complex maneuvers flawlessly. Observers in the tower whispered their astonishment. She had transformed a scenario designed to challenge her into a demonstration of mastery. The line between mechanic, engineer, and strategist blurred seamlessly. Colonel Davis felt a rare swell of pride and awe. Emma had begun as a rookie, underestimated by peers, scrutinized by superiors, and now stood as a figure who redefined operational excellence. Her notebook, once secret, had served as both training tool and guide, bridging years of disciplined study with real-world application. The Warthog moved like a finely tuned instrument, each system optimized, every challenge met with foresight and skill. Emma had turned potential disaster into an unbroken string of success, validating both her ability and her judgment. The final phase of the exercise simulated emergency conditions, simultaneous sensor failure, engine turbulence, and hydraulic instability. Emma's response was instantaneous. She implemented redundant systems, executed compensatory adjustments, and maintained full situational awareness. The Warthog stabilized, responding with precision beyond what any standard operator could have achieved. Colonel Davis realized that her mastery was not merely technical, it was strategic. Emma could anticipate, adapt, and innovate in real time, bridging mechanical skill with tactical brilliance. The scenario concluded, and the hangar erupted in applause, admiration, and awe. Emma disembarked, calm yet aware of the significance of the exercise. Colonel Davis approached, his expression a mixture of respect, relief, and approval. "Emma," he said, voice steady but filled with weight, "you've demonstrated something extraordinary today. Not only have you mastered the technical aspects of these aircraft, but you've proven strategic insight, foresight, and discipline beyond your years. You are now officially recognized as an integral part of elite operational planning and tactical optimization. Your role in this squadron will shape our future." Emma's eyes met his, steady and composed. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. "I've been preparing for challenges like this for years, and I understand the responsibility. I'll continue to apply my knowledge carefully to benefit both the squadron and the mission." Davis nodded. He knew that trust, discipline, and mastery had converged in this young mechanic, creating a rare combination of talent and reliability. Emma was no longer just a prodigy. She was a cornerstone of operational excellence. The squadron, witnessing her achievement, regarded her with newfound respect. Mechanics who had once doubted her skill now sought guidance. Pilots and officers recognized her strategic value. The hidden notebook, once a secret, had become a symbol of preparation, discipline, and innovation. Emma had turned secret lessons into actionable expertise, transforming both herself and the squadron. Colonel Davis watched silently, confident that her influence would shape operations for years to come. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the hangar, Emma stood beside the Warthog, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. From secret lessons in invisible ink to mastering complex systems under intense scrutiny, she had proven herself time and again. Today, she had faced the ultimate test, and she had succeeded. Her path forward was full of challenges, but she had the skill, knowledge, and determination to meet them. The Air Force had discovered not just a mechanic, but a strategist, an innovator, and a force whose impact would echo long into the future.